So here I have a couple of spheres. I have a bouncy ball from long ago that's pretty much spherical unless I poke it. And I have a Christmas ornament that's a glass one, so that's nice. I can be confident that my whiteboard marker will come off of it nicely. And so I thought I would do a couple of examples of how you do things. So if I want to put a line segment on my sphere, then I'm going to take my string and I'm going to put it down between two places and I'm going to pull it tight. And when I pull it tight, then what I'm doing is I am making sure that it is the shortest path, because if I pull it and it goes tight, then if there was a shorter path, it would find it when I am pulling it tight. And I'm just going to get some tape here. Okay, so I'm just going to tape down the ends of my line segment here. So this is the shortest path, which makes it a line segment. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I would measure an angle. So that means I need two line segments. So I have two pieces of string. I'm going to make sure that they cross somewhere. Tape down one end, pull it tight so that it will be a shortest path. Tape down the other end. Now if I wanted to, I could draw that onto my sphere with this whiteboard marker. That's the angle I'm going to measure. And the way I'm going to measure it is that first I'm going to try tracing that onto a piece of paper. So I have some tracing paper, and with a little care you can do this with regular paper. But if you've got some tracing paper, that's nice stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace out that line segment. Okay. And then I'm going to hold my finger here, and I'm going to, while this is still on that segment, I am going to trace out the other segment going away from the intersection point. Now, you notice that if I want to put both of them down at once, then my paper is going to get a fold in it. And that's because my paper is not curved, but my sphere surface is curved. So you have to kind of hold it in place and do one line, and then you just kind of hold it there with your finger and you do the other line. And then you're going to take that piece of paper and flatten it out and get your protractor and measure that angle. So I hope you all remember now how to use a protractor. And there should be a little dot on your protractor that you line up with the intersection of the two lines. And there's this line that goes through the dot, and you line that up with one of the sides of your angle. And then you look out at what happens to the other side of your angle. And here, if we start from 0, that gets up to be nearly 60. So that's, I'm going to estimate, about 59 degrees. And, you know, I could be off by 1 or 2 degrees, but I'm pretty close. All right, I'm going to do the same thing on the little sphere. Take my thread and tape it down in one place. Pull the string tight and tape it down somewhere else to be another point on that straight segment. Do the same thing with another piece of string. Okay, pull, pull, pull. Make sure those are nice and tight so they're finding the shortest paths. Looks good. So your job is to take a piece of paper, and I've got tracing paper, and put it down with the center of your two lines over where those two lines meet. If you leave the string on there instead of tracing it out, you can feel where they are and just copy it out, tracing down one side. Okay, keep your finger in place. Start it going down the other side and then hold it in place on the other side. You're not going to be able to get it to hug both sides of the angle at once because your paper has zero curvature and your sphere has a positive curvature. But when you pull that up, you get an angle on a piece of paper, and that angle on a piece of paper is something that you can measure with your protractor. So here we are. I'm doing the protractor thing again in a place where there is less glare from my light. So here's my angle. Take my protractor, put it over the angle. Yeah, that's better, less glare. Make sure that the point of the angle lines up with this little dot on the protractor, and the protractor should have a line coming out from that dot that you're going to line up one of the sides with. And then on the outside, I've got the numbers going 0 to 180 going left to right, and on the inside I've got 0 to 180 going right to left. So I'm going right to left, so I'm going to use these numbers, and I'm going to look right here, and that angle is a little more than 105. So maybe 106. Okay, the other thing I wanted to make sure that I did with a physical ball, and I think that this one is a little nicer in that it's easier to get the, my string shows up better on it. And so I want to do with the string the finding a line that keeps going, so an infinite line. So the idea behind an infinite line is that you start off with a segment, so there's my segment that I got by pulling the string tight, and then I want to extend that segment. So I want another piece of string that I'm going to make sure lines up with this string here. So I'm going to put a piece of tape right there, and I'm going to stretch this tight, and I'm going to make sure it's going in a direction where it lines up with that first segment. Okay. So I've got it continued out to there, so I'm going to tape it in place. All right. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Going to get me a nice long piece of string. Okay, I'm going to tape it, not at the very end, but somewhere back an inch or two from the very end, so that I can see if it's going in the same direction or not. See, if I go over that way, that's not the same direction. There, that's the same direction. So that's going straight. Oops, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm trying to go too fast. I do have this little problem that this sphere really needs to be pumped back up. But I think you can see that this is coming back pretty close to where it started. All right. So if I was doing this, and if I was perfect at this, these would actually match up, and this would make a great circle that goes all the way around my sphere. And if my sphere were made out of cake, I could cut along that great circle going around the sphere. And when I opened it up, I would have two hemispheres, so the two halves would be the same size.